The morning sun bounced off the glass towers of Manhattan's financial district like a spotlight aimed only at the powerful, the wealthy, and the untouchable. 12-year-old Marcus Chen stood across the street from one of those towers, staring up at it as if it were a different planet. His sneakers, held together by strips of gray duct tape, scraped against the sidewalk as he shifted his weight. Inside his pocket was a thin, worn envelope containing a black bank card that had arrived 6 months earlier, a card he had been too afraid to use. Today, fear had finally lost the argument. Hunger had won. With no more credit at the corner store, an eviction notice taped crookedly to his apartment door, and his little sister asking if there would be dinner tonight, Marcus stepped forward. The revolving doors swallowed him whole. Cold air hit his face, sharp and unfamiliar, washing over skin that still carried dirt he couldn't scrub away. The lobby was unreal. Marble floors gleamed like mirrors. Crystal chandeliers glowed above leather chairs no one dared wrinkle. Everything smelled expensive, like success bottled and sprayed into the air. Marcus clutched the envelope tighter, suddenly aware of how loud his footsteps sounded in a place built for silence. When the receptionist looked at him, her smile froze halfway. "Can I help you?" she asked, eyes already searching for security. Marcus swallowed. I need to check my balance." The words felt fragile, like they might shatter if spoken too loudly. Confusion crossed her face when he showed the card. Disbelief followed. Across the lobby, laughter erupted. Richard Blackwell, the bank's legendary CEO, noticed Marcus and smirked. His tailored suit and polished shoes reflected wealth Marcus had only seen on billboards. "Why is a street kid in my bank?" Richard said loudly, making sure everyone heard. Heads turned, eyes judged. Marcus felt heat flood his face, but he didn't move, not today, not when everything depended on what that screen might say. He stepped forward anyway, voice shaking but steady enough to survive. "I have an account," he said, and with that the room leaned in, ready to watch him fall. Laughter spread through the lobby like a virus. Well-dressed clients paused their conversations, eager for entertainment that didn't involve stock prices. Richard Blackwell leaned back in his chair, amused as if a stray animal had wandered into his perfectly controlled world. "Let me guess," he said, loud and theatrical. "You found that card in the trash?" Marcus shook his head. "It came in the mail. My name is on it." The banker chuckled, typing slowly, dragging out the moment because humiliation to him was a form of sport. Security guards stood nearby, waiting for the signal. Marcus felt every second stretch. He thought of his mother's face before she got sick, thought of Emma's quiet hunger, thought of how small he felt in this room built to remind people like him that they didn't belong. When Richard finally froze mid-keystroke, no one noticed at first. His confident smile stiffened, then cracked. He leaned closer to the screen, blinking. Then he straightened abruptly. "That's impossible," he muttered. He tried again. The number didn't change. $47 million. The laughter died. The room went silent. Richard called the receptionist over. Her fingers trembled as she verified the account. Same balance, same name, same truth. Whispers replaced laughter. The woman who had smirked earlier stared at the floor. A man in a three-piece suit suddenly found his phone fascinating. Richard's face drained of color. For the first time in decades, he felt the ground shift beneath him. Marcus stood there, not understanding the number, only sensing that something had gone wrong in a way that worked in his favor. "What does it say?" Marcus asked quietly. Richard didn't answer. He couldn't. His world, built on judging people by appearance, had just betrayed him. A senior manager named James Morrison stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "This conversation needs privacy," he said. And for the first time, Richard Blackwell wasn't in control. As Marcus followed James toward the elevator, he felt something unfamiliar stirring inside him. Not victory, not relief, just confusion mixed with grief for a mother who wasn't there to see the moment that changed everything. Upstairs, away from marble floors and staring eyes, Marcus sat in a quiet conference room with a sandwich placed gently in front of him. Hunger answered before his pride could. As he ate, James Morrison unfolded the truth piece by piece. 6 months earlier, Marcus's mother, Linda Chen, had walked into the bank through the service entrance wearing a janitor's uniform. She wasn't asking for help for herself. She was planning for a future she knew she wouldn't see. She had taken out a life insurance policy years earlier, paying small amounts every month, even when money was painfully scarce. 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of skipping meals, 10 years of choosing her children over herself. The policy had grown, compounded, protected by a trust she spent nights researching at public libraries after working double shifts. She didn't want you to know, James said softly. She wanted your memories of her to be strong. Marcus stared at the letter his mother had left behind, words written with a hand already losing strength. The money wasn't a miracle. It was love multiplied by time and suffering. It was proof that wealth isn't always loud. Sometimes it cleans floors at night and still finds the strength to dream. Marcus cried quietly, not because of the money, but because he finally understood the weight his mother carried alone. Downstairs, Richard Blackwell sat frozen, replaying every word he'd spoken, every laugh he'd encouraged. Shame crept in where pride once lived. For the first time, he saw poverty not as failure, but as endurance. And he realized the richest person in the room had never been him. When Richard entered the conference room, the power dynamic had reversed completely. He wasn't the judge anymore. He was the lesson. James laid out the documents, the trust, the insurance records, each page dismantling Richard's assumptions brick by brick. Linda Chen, the woman who cleaned his office, had outplanned clients worth billions. Marcus listened as Richard apologized, not with polished words, but broken honesty. "I judged you," Richard said, "because it was easier than seeing you." Marcus didn't rush to forgive. He didn't need to. The apology wasn't for him alone. It was for every invisible worker Richard had ever ignored. When Richard offered immediate help, housing, stability, protection, Marcus hesitated. "I just wanted groceries," he whispered. That sentence hit harder than any accusation. It exposed the absurd gap between excess and survival. As they drove to Marcus's old apartment, Richard saw poverty up close for the first time. Crumbling walls, broken elevators, neighbors who shared what little they had, Emma's small arms wrapped around her brother when he returned. "Does this mean we won't be hungry anymore?" she asked. Richard turned away, unable to hide his tears. That night, the man who once measured worth in numbers felt something heavier than money: responsibility. Change didn't come from speeches. It came from decisions. Within weeks, Richard tripled wages for service staff, added benefits, and created scholarship programs. Board members protested. Investors questioned him. He didn't care. For the first time, profit wasn't the point. Purpose was. Marcus and Emma moved into a safe home. They ate without fear. They slept without listening for eviction knocks. But Marcus didn't forget where he came from. He carried his mother's words with him like a compass. "Money is just money," she had written. "What you do with it matters." While Richard rebuilt his company culture, Marcus rebuilt meaning. He watched how power could heal or harm, and he chose healing. 3 months later, Marcus sat across from Richard again, not as a scared kid, but as a young man with purpose. "I want to start a foundation," Marcus said, "for kids like me." He planned it carefully. Education, food security, support for working families. He offered $10 million from his trust. Richard didn't hesitate. "I'll match it," he said, because generosity, once learned, grows fast. The Linda Chen Foundation was born from sacrifice, not guilt, from love, not image. When news cameras arrived, Marcus spoke not about wealth but dignity. He spoke about his mother, about invisible workers, about respect. America listened. The story went viral. CEOs took notes. Workers felt seen. Richard's peers mocked him until profits rose alongside morale. Turns out respect scales. Marcus thrived in school. Emma laughed more. Richard reconnected with his estranged daughter. One act of compassion had rewritten multiple lives, not because of money, but because someone finally looked past appearances. This story isn't about a poor kid who turned out rich. It's about a rich world that forgot how to see. It's about a mother who proved love can outinvest greed. And it's about what happens when we stop judging people by what they have and start honoring who they are. If this story moved you, share it. If it changed how you see others, subscribe. And remember, sometimes the richest lesson walks in wearing duct-taped shoes. Thank you for listening.